My name is Lyle Wright, and I'm here with Patrick Hill. We are on the Defense Solutions team, and we support our defense industry. We have a couple goals in the role that we play. The first role is that we want to make sure that for the challenges that the defense and intel industry face, with maybe something being a little too challenging, or maybe there's someone that says, hey, I'm doing X and it takes 30 button clicks. We try to take those workflows that apply across industry and simplify those so not only a subject matter expert can do those, but anyone within an organization within reason. So that's one of the reasons why we built military tools for ArcGIS. The second reason is we are a voice into core for our customers. So as you start using our product or our templates or our tools or the stuff we do, we like to take back to core what we're not doing in core software and why do we have to build this? Why was this hard? Or why is this challenging for those users? So to start off, who is Defense Solutions? And essentially what we are as a group that sits side by side with core, and we essentially create templates, tools, workflows, and what you're coming to today to see is military tools for ArcGIS. But the main thing is we want to empower our users to have focused workflows, so if there's something they're doing for the first time, they don't have to start from scratch. Who do we support? So in the past decade, we support a tremendous amount of the users inside these communities. It used to be us focusing on the intelligence analysts or the geospatial analysts or the SIGINT analysts. And now we've looked at this as far as how far the platform supports our customers, that we're able to support our planners, our decision makers. Are we making the applications or the workflows that allow them to have entry level into the platform to answer the questions they need? And also, are we supporting those new analysts that come into these fields and allow them to have some of the subject matter expertise or to accomplish a common goal that maybe they don't know how to do right out of the box? But we can help with that. So what is military tools for ArcGIS? Essentially, it's a group of essential workflows that allow us to deliver these as one package. We create this product in the complete open. Everything the Defense Solutions we do in the open, and we'll show that today, where you can find our source code. So for developers, if you want to take something that we've built in military tools and pull it out and put it into something you build, that's a win for us. That's our whole goal. But if you're not that, we also have those users that don't have developers inside their organizations. We deliver this as add-ins. We deliver this as geoprocessing tools. We deliver this stuff as widgets. The big thing for us is we want to make it easy to use. We want to make it simple understanding workflows that take a complex problem and simplify it. We also want to make sure that it's not something we're making money on. This is no cost to us. We're essentially giving it to you guys to where it's going to help out your organization get from point A to point B. When we talk about military tools, we break it down into these components. There's coordinate conversion. Just easily and accurately be able to take coordinates from one system to another system. Many of our users we've seen in the past will use 3 or 4 different applications to convert a coordinate to get it out to the end result of what they needed to do. We wanted to do that inside of ArcGIS. We want to be able to solve some simple challenges of drawing geodesic features. That's what distance and direction calculations does. Drawing geodesic features, doing a beat and scatter very quickly as a graphic on a map to where allow everyone to answer those questions. We want to take something that's complex such as visibility and simplify that to allow you to understand how to build this visibility product that maybe only 2 or 3 people inside an organization can do, now everyone can do. And then we have a military symbol editor. How can we accurately and quickly create military features to allow it then to be shared across the platform? And when we did this, we didn't want to just do it for our desktop users. We want to make sure it's supporting everything. So majority of what you see in ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro is also going to be a web app builder. The only thing that is not in the web right now is our military symbol editor. But everything else is either in our desktop product for ArcGIS Pro or ArcMap. So with that, we want to just get started and just show you a little bit about this and give you a quick overview of how the tools work. So we'll start off and we'll look at ArcGIS Pro. And when you install military tools, what you get is you get a ribbon that gives you coordinate conversion, distance direction, the symbol editor, and a visibility. All these are created as panes that you can undock and dock. So all the simple things that you would think of a pane could do inside of ArcGIS Pro is there. If I go to ArcMap, I have the 3 basic functionalities in ArcMap, which is I have coordinate conversion, I have distance direction, and I have the visibility tools. And that's going to work as a toolbar the way we think about toolbars in ArcMap. So when that opens up, we'll come back to that. The idea, though, is we want to be able to do something very simple and quickly, such as, let's just talk about coordinates. So I have a location on the map that I care about. I have a few different things I can do. I can choose to take that coordinate from the map itself, and it will automatically update wherever my cursor is. If I don't work in a particular format in a day-to-day manner, say right now I have this coordinate conversion add-in set to MGRS. If I wanted to set that to DMS, I can do that, and those will now change to there. So that's just a very basic, how do I look at the coordinates or where my cursor is? But the power of this is how do I customize this to work with my customer? So I would say everyone in this room has dealt with coordinates at one time or another. And if you're working with a military customer, normally those military applications that you're putting those coordinates in have a particular format that they have to be in or it doesn't work. So an example would be, let's say if I have an MGRS coordinate and these need to have spacings between the different parsers of the coordinate. I can do that, give it just a basic name, and now that format is then saved. If I want to just take that one particular format and copy that to a clipboard or another application, I can do so. Or if I want to give someone all of the different coordinates that I'm working with, I could do that as well. So what we want to do is we want to be able to give our users the ability to take one coordinate of one format and push it out in multiple formats in a very quick and concise manner. Something that's very easy. That's what coordinate conversion does. So if we open ArcMap and we look at this, it comes out as military tools. Let's see it. Can't find it. There it is. Thank you. Always help from the crowd. Thank you, guys. So here's coordinate conversion as well, distance and direction, and visibility. And that gives you the same concept. For these 3 workflows, they're the same in ArcGIS Pro as they in ArcMap. So that's one thing we want to do. Whatever we could replicate for our desktop users still using ArcMap, we want to be able to give that functionality to them. Let's go back to Pro and look at distance and direction. So if I come to distance and direction, and I just want to create just a basic line from one location to another. This is that geodesic line that shows up very quickly. This also allows me to do the same thing with circles. So if I want to create just a basic circle, I can do the same thing. Some of us deal with ellipses. I can draw my ellipse, set my minor and my major. And then if I do deal with range rings, I could do this a few different ways. The first way is if I want to interactively draw them on the map. So let's say I want to find out, or I want to draw graphics in a given location from Boston. So let's say, for instance, we had an event that happened in Boston, and I want to know standoff distances from Boston to Providence, to New York, to Philadelphia. We can quickly create these graphics. This is something before that would have to have been done by some GP tool in the back end. Someone would have to build it either as a Python script or a model builder. We did this now through an add-in. Another thing we can do that is very useful to a lot of our customers, they've been asking for quite some time, is the idea of being able to find something based on an object's ability. So if I say I have a particular location of where I saw an object last, so say I saw an individual at this given location, and at that given location I understood that I saw him 90 minutes ago or any other rate of travel, and I understand they have a particular ability, so they can travel 45 miles an hour. I can now quickly draw that graphic in a manner of just an easy thing. Before, this was something that someone would have to do to create a GP tool for that. So all of these graphics allow us to just answer those quick questions that we might answer in a day-to-day operation for military customers. The next thing is that how do you export this information out? So we can, of course, save any of these layers as a service and then publish those as a service to allow everyone in the organization to have access to that data. But if you have disconnected users that can't get to that information, we also allow you to save this as a feature class, a shapefile, and a KMZ. So it allows you to take this content and put it into those other applications that might not have the ability to take in a web service of some sort. So we also have the visibility add-in. The visibility add-in allows us to quickly do a few things that are actually multiple workflows that we're putting together. So what we want to do is want to give the analyst the ability to say, where are target locations? Where are observer locations? So I'll drop my target locations now. I already dropped my observer locations. What's the offset height? What's the target offset? And run this process. Now in the past when we've done visibility, there's been a few questions we want to ask. The first question is that where from one location to another location can I see on the ground? So what part of the ground or terrain is visible to me? The second question is that if I'm a target and I'm looking at a particular observer, can I see that target? And then from the target perspective is that how many observers can see this particular target? So we wanted to answer that question all at once. So where before people would go out and they'd create sight lines, they would create the linear line of sight, and then they would go dig in the attribute table to get that information that was created in those tools. So we've now done this in a tool that does this all dynamically. So from here, this is really good because the first thing I get is that red and green lines. That's what I can see on the ground. The black and the white halo is answering the question, is that can this observer see a particular target? Also, at each of the individual targets, we have a red and a green dot in the middle. The red dot simplifies that observer cannot see any targets. The green dot says, well, I can see a target, and then the white lines will say which target I can see. So this is only half the workflow. Before, we've always had to take this back into into a 3D application, but what we want to do is we want to give users that don't understand the difference between 2D and 3D data a way to quickly view this content in a 3D application. So all these layers are 3D aware. You can take these, create a scene, and start to see how answer these questions. Why can't this observer to the north see anybody? So we'll zoom in on this guy, tilt it, and very quickly we start to understand, you know what? It's because he's in a valley and he can't see anything. So from this point, what we normally would do is then just find other observer locations that make sense. So let's go back to this. I'll turn off the layers that was created. One of the good things about this is that as we do our analysis, we want to make sure that it's something that we can go back and check. We don't want to overwrite data. So each individual time you run it, it's going to give you those layers plus an underscore of the number of times you've ran that. So I've ran it once before, so now this is 1. The next one will be 2, 3, 4, so on. So I've identified some points that would be new possible locations based on this area here. So we have these 2 hilltops here, this location and this location. And to take that and quickly run this again. So if you've ever done any type of analysis such as this, you know to do this twice is usually like a challenge. Like we have to run and it takes 20, 30 minutes to conduct all those different workflows. So now what we want to do is do that same thing with those new locations. So let's take this location, this location, and then take our target locations again. Now I'll use the same parameters as before, but the reality, in the matter of minutes, I've ran a line of sight and got all the answers that we normally would get by digging through data and attribute tables, everything, in a matter of a few minutes. It takes a second to run, but the idea is we want to automate this, and we want to give those users that might not understand 3D quite well, but need to answer these questions, a way to do this in an automated fashion. So those are those results. So now we can see the individual to the north can see more of the observers. So that's a workflow in desktop. Let's go to the web really quick and look at what we have, and then we're going to kick it over to Patrick. So if I go to national security, I have an application that's already stood up that has all of these widgets installed. And so for my use, if I'm just a basic user, I want to answer the same questions as before. So I want to have the ability to look at converting coordinates in a web application. So someone that just needs to understand the difference and be able to still customize those coordinates to have some type of custom format and then be able to copy those out. So now you don't have to have anybody using military tools. Doesn't have to only be a desktop user. They can also be a user of the platform. Same thing for distance and direction. If I want to come here and I want to create that same line that I did before from one location to the next, I get that as well. It's also labeled. I can change my base map so we can see the label. And there's that content. Now visibility is a bit different. We haven't done linear line of sight and visibility in the web, but we do have a different way of looking at this. So the first thing is we have this interactive window that allows me to set my field of view. So if I set it to 270, it's going to allow me to say what's visible. And then I can just drag around and say, okay, where do I want my visible my observer to be looking? What's his field of view? And I could also set what he can see. A lot of times when you're doing radial line of sight, it's not just I can see from this distance. Sometimes there's a point where I can't see or I can't hit something from a particular distance. Maybe I'm not effective from 0 to 1,000 meters, but from 1,000 to 5,000, I am effective. So I can have that donut-like effect. And then this here just runs on a geoprocessing service. So what we've done is we packaged the component of the geoprocessing service and the widget that's configured to connect to that to give our users a quick way to just run a radial line of sight in a widget. Now, anybody inside of an organization that has access to this application can get that example done effectively. So all the information we've done here with visibility, we've done on a few different types of layers. We've taken our last data sets and we've taken those and turned those into a normalized digital terrain model and ran all the visibility stuff from that. And we've also taken the traditional just dim 30 meters that we have access to as well and ran those. So you can, any of the data you have, if you bring your data, you can provision it to utilize with this application or these widgets and these tools to get you started. So from there, that's just a basic understanding of what we have. What Patrick's going to go into is then, as a developer, what do you need to get started? We're on slides first. So what do you need to get started? Well, the first thing, to use the desktop application such as ArcMap, you need to have ArcObjects SDK framework 10.3.1. So we support ArcMap 10.3.1 to 10.5 currently. For ArcGIS Pro, you have to have the ArcGIS Pro SDK 1.4 and .NET framework that will allow you to download our add-ins, our components, and be able to get started with those. For the widgets, we have configured our widgets around Web App Builder version 2.2. I think 2.3 just came out, but we're doing 2.2 right now. And the developer edition, JavaScript 3.2. So this is what you have to have inside your framework to be able to start utilizing what Patrick's about to show you. So at this point, I'll switch over to Patrick.
Okay, is my mic on? Yeah. Okay, we're up. Okay, so first thing we want to do as a developer is we want to go to the repository where with the source code that we're interested in. So here I'm at the endpoint for the distance and direction widget. Each of the widgets are, or each, shouldn't say widget, each of the add-ins have their own separate repository, and then all of the widgets are in one repository. So this is the distance and direction widget. First thing I want to do is fork my repository. So I'll go here, and I'll choose a location. And this will take just a few seconds. And the purpose of forking is it allows you to make changes to the source code without touching the original source. So this creates a copy of the original repository that you can use for yourself. Okay, once I've forked, I've forked successfully. Once I fork, I want to get the source code. So the way I do that is I clone repository. I'm going to have to move down a little bit here. I use GitHub for Windows, so it's going to automatically take me to that. And it pulls up a browser here, so I'll choose my location. Close that. Hit OK. And now it's copying my source code over. This will take just a few seconds.
So one of the things we need to know as we build these, how many of you guys right now are using GitHub to do source management? Any of you? Okay, good. How many of you guys knew that we were on GitHub as far as Defense Solutions? Got 2, 3, okay.
Okay, so I've successfully downloaded my code. And now I'll notice this is the GitHub for Windows application. Notice that the distance and direction add-in is in my selection, in my table of contents. So I want to make sure that I have that selected. And now that I've downloaded the source code, the next thing I want to do is, first thing you always kind of want to do is build the source code before you make any changes. So I'll go to Visual Studio. Open distance direction. Let's make sure I'm in the right location. It'll take a few seconds to open. And now that I've opened it, I can go and build the solution. And it'll take a few seconds. Build is successful. And so one of the things that we're working with the distance and direction add-in, when you build an add-in in Visual Studio, it automatically deploys to ArcGIS. So let's look at ArcGIS Pro. Open that up. Open up a project. Loaded the map. Now if I go to the project in the ribbon and then select Add-in Manager, I'll see that the distance and direction add-in has been deployed. I'll go back. Also, if I go to add-in on the ribbon, I'll see that I have my distance and direction tool there. So I built successfully and I've deployed my add-in in ArcGIS Pro. So back to Lyle.
So we're not going to change screens, we're just going to cover this concept. So what we just showed is something that if you're using GitHub, it's not something that's new to you. We just forked a repository to allow you to use that inside your own organization. But one of the things we want to allow you guys to understand is how do you give us feedback? And that's critical for us because this is a living and breathing product. It's only as good as the requirements and the information we give you. One of the ways we're doing that is using GitHub. So while he was working there, I went into the distance direction add-in and I logged an issue. So our issues is the way that we identify what work we're doing, what's critical and what's important to us now. So if he goes back to issues, there's this, can we change the description? of the add-in. So if he launches that, there's a few things that we do inside there that we can do. The first thing is we can assign individuals. That's what you'll see on our team, is we'll start assigning our developers and our product engineers to show who's working on this. Also, any comments, any feedback that's happening, we will also do that in the open as well. So we don't use another way of communicating. So if we're working on functionality or an enhancement, we're going to be doing that in GitHub. So you'll be able to see the flow of traffic of, oh, this is a priority to them, or this is not a priority to them. So this is the first way that we want to start to work with you guys to understand that if something is not a priority to us, you can give us feedback. Hey, this is mission critical to us. We need this for this reason. This is the value behind it. And now the developer, our entire team can see that. So I also log this as a bug, so I can put labels as far as a bug, or let's just say you have just an enhancement. We have these tags that allow us to do enhancements, questions, other things of that nature. So we don't care how simple or how complicated it is, we want you guys to be involved. So that now what we want to show you is like, how are we working within our team? So let's say we have a bug, and that bug now goes to being something that's going to be addressed. So how would we address that, Patrick?
Well, first thing I would do is I would go to the issues in the distance and direction widget, and I see that I have an issue. Can we change the description of the tooltip on the distance and direction widget? So now that I'm going to make a change, first thing we want to do is we'll go to GitHub for Windows again, and we'll create a new branch for us to do development in. And actually, I'm going to go back to this and catch. So we see that the issue number is number 339. I'm going to name my branch, or my new branch, issue 339, so I know what I'm working on. And then I just select create a new branch. And my new branch automatically puts me into my new branch, and that's just a copy of the developer branch. So now that we've created a branch, we can start doing some coding. And I'll go to distance and direction widget. Let me just open this a little bit so I can read. So we need to make a change to the description on the tooltip and the add-in. And the location for that for a Pro project, because we're in ArcGIS Pro, is the config.daml. So I'll open that. And the config.daml just has configuration information, property descriptions, that sort of information for the add-in. And if I go down just a little bit, I'll see that the tooltip heading here just says distance and direction. So I'm going to change that to Lyle's distance and direction tool. Very simple change. Save the change. And then I want to build. Build was successful. So now I can go into ArcGIS Pro again and check to see that everything looks the way I want it to. And for the add-in to deploy properly, you have to close, for it to see the changes, you have to close out and open up ArcGIS Pro. That's why I closed it out before. So now, go to the add-in on the ribbon, go to distance and direction. I'll hover over this, and now we see that the tooltip description or the tooltip heading reflects the changes that I made. So once we have changes that we're satisfied with, we can go back and push them up to the main repository. So I can see that I've made a change. And if I click on the change, I can see what I changed over here on the right. And I want to commit the change. I'm happy with the change. I want to commit it. So I'm just going to give it a name. right through 39, and the description. And then go down and hit commit. So now my change has been committed to my branch, and then it needs to be synced to the branch. And syncing happens the first time you create a new branch, you have to publish the branch, and that'll do the syncing for you. So I've synced the branch. And now the last step is to create a pull request. So a pull request notifies the main branch that there's been a change, and then it goes through another set of make sure that the change meets the approval of the owner of the repository. So I can click on pull request, pulls up, you see the commit that I just made, and all you have to do is send pull request. And pull request was sent, and now I can view it on GitHub. And here is the pull request that I just created. Now, someone else will come in and review the code, that sort of thing, and be able to merge the pull request, and that's the final step to pushing it up to the repository. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't really want to save that change.
I'm still in the backpack. All right, so what does it look like from our standpoint? If we go in and look at the distance direction add-in, here's a ton of different issues that have happened since creation of this add-in. To us, we have multiple add-ins, and we had to figure out the easiest way to allow somebody to have the functionality they wanted, but not have to possibly download all the functionality. So what we did is we created these repositories. So the very top one is a topic that's just a new capability inside of GitHub. Allows you to just tie a topic to a group of actual add-ins, or repositories, but we put each of the individual add-in in its own repository. The thing that we've used is we've used the approach model view model, so that's all in there for ArcGIS Pro, but we've also been able to reuse and repurpose some of that code that we've created for Pro into ArcMap. So if you were to download the repository, you could essentially build the ArcMap and the ArcGIS Pro add-in out of that same repository. So if you only wanted distance and direction, you would just go to that repository, download that, and pull that out. If you wanted to give us issues, that's where we would do that. The only thing that's not like that is our widgets. Our widgets is stored with the rest of our solutions team. So there's about 15 or 20 widgets in there currently. There's everything from local and state government to defense widgets that are available there. But this is how we track what we're doing and how we want to share that information. So just a quick overview of what Patrick covered. The first thing he covered was forking. So how do you take the content we create and put it inside your organization? That would be create a fork of it. How do we address new issues? And there's two ways. So the first is if you're a developer and you're just calling about an enhancement or a question, or you don't want to call tech support, there's a possibility you can go to our GitHub repository and log that issue. And that's what the top issue looks like. Hey, select an existing feature as inputs. That's something you can give us. If you do call tech support and you do say, hey, this is broken, all of our stuff is fully supported, they're going to create a repository, they're going to create an issue in the repository with the bug ID that then hopefully we'll give back to you. So as we're working on this, you can either call tech support or you can see it working in the repository, just depending on how you have access to the content. I know some of you guys don't have access to the open internet where you work, but if you do, you have the ability to look at that. So all the information that we're working on will be out there. And then once we have a functionality, an enhancement or a bug that we're going to be working on, this is that feature creation that we do in the branch. So we create a branch, make a change, commit the branch, submit the pull request back in there. So you can start to see this quite quickly. We have addressed issues as quickly as one day and some as a couple of weeks. So it just depends on what the severity of the problem is. So one of the things that everyone in the room is that we don't have an API. We're using the common ArcGIS platform to build all these. So we're not going to show you API enhancements, that stuff. You would go to those sessions. What we want to do is this is our first version of military tools. And we want to give you an understanding of what we have, how we're working, and also now what the road ahead is. So one of the things that our customers have asked for in the last couple of months is batch coordinate conversion. So I have an Excel table, or I have features in one feature class. I want to take that content put it into the coordinate conversion add-in, and then add more dynamically, and then push that out as a new service. So that's going to be coming in the next version. We also wanted to be able to do increased notation format. So if I'm working in the widget or if I'm working in the add-in for military tools, if I type a coordinate, I get the same answer back, and everything is fully supported. And we deal with a lot of funky formats in the defense and intel world. So we want to be able to support all those formats, but we also want to make sure that you're putting in and getting out what you expect. So if you put in a 45-45 coordinate, the system's going to ask you, did you mean 45-45 north, 45-45 south? What did you mean? Because those are two different locations on the map. So we're trying to build this smart design so that it's going to prompt you properly. That's one of the things that notation formats is. Right now, the dark theme came out, and our stuff doesn't look that good in the dark theme, but we're working on making that better. But if you've seen that, some of the stuff works very okay. Some of the stuff is a little funky with some of the different windows, but that's something that's happening in the future version. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to add some additional tools. Right now, we're going to add the GRG widget and the grid overlay widget. These are things that we've released now that you can go out and get. But the idea is that we want to make sure that whatever is military focused that applies to the entire defense or military realm, that they can just have that as military tools. So that's our plan forward here. We really don't have too much more other than we want to cover the upcoming webinars. So we've already done a few webinars. There was one that happened on Tuesday for visibility. There was one that gave an overview that showed you every bit of the tools that happened in February. We want to give the ability to look at this stuff, and you can share this stuff. We use GoToMeeting. So if something that GoToMeeting is supporting your organization, you can download that. That's fine. Some of our military customers had a challenge with that. So because of that, we've recorded all of these as well, so then they'll be hung up there as well at that URL at the top left corner, so you can get access to those. But what we want to do is we want to use 10-15 minutes of this session to get some questions from you. We want to show you the rest of the tools that we have and how you find the rest of the stuff for solutions. But before I do that, I don't want to lose anybody walking out. Is there something that we're not addressing? Is there an enhancement that you need? Is there a functionality that's there? So I want to open it to you guys. You guys have any questions at all or any feedback?
What about for standalone apps?
What
Like standalone apps like ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS abilities. Is there any future way?
So one of the things we do for standalone apps is we've done a lot of the military symbology stuff, the initial stuff to make sure that the military symbology 2525B changed to 2525D and I believe 2525C. We've created those StyleX files. Allow that to go in that native application. So when you deploy that, you can have military symbology there. But if you're talking about like fast visibility and some of those other things, we haven't looked at that, but that's a possibility. I'm not sure whose realm that would be, but that's a good question I can take back. Yes, sir. It's the same case now. Yeah. So because ArcMap is so mature, at one time within the life of that product, the linear line of sight call that we do is actually just a part of just ArcMap. But the radial line of sight calls that we do and other stuff for the sight lines, that stuff is actually, you need spatial or 3D for those things. So that still is there. You still need spatial 3D to run the entire thing for visibility. Yes, sir. So we are at the mercy of the applications we support. So if ArcGIS Pro is a .NET application, it runs on Windows. ArcMap's the same way. You could deploy the widgets into a Linux environment if you had a server environment there, and that could run there. And then, of course, if you have ArcGIS Server that runs in a Linux environment, that can also be there. That's good support. So whatever the core platform supports, whatever it runs on, we're going to do the same thing. We haven't thought about breaking that mold, and we're not going to. Okay. So when you're talking about creating your own SVGs and making those into an actual symbol, is that? Between myself and some other individuals that are wearing red badges in the crowd, let's take that offline and let's answer that question and see if we can help you out. Okay? So is this what you guys expected when you think of military tools, these workflows? Can I get some nods, yes, no? Is there something missing that you would like to see that you feel like is a fundamental focus of the military that we're missing? Yes, sir.
Did I understand that comments and suggestions don't go to Git?
They can. That's one way that we look at them. If you were to talk to me today and say, hey, there's an enhancement request that Lyle has gotten, our team or Lyle is going to go and log those in GitHub.
The end user community may want enhancements to the tool. What is their record to get capability?
It can be user group meetings, it can be GitHub, it can be customer support. But when we're working on something, when we've decided we're going to do that, you're going to see that enhancement of that bug logged in GitHub to allow everyone to see what we're working on and what we're doing. If there's something we're missing there that you feel like that it is, we can talk about that offline, or you can bring it up now and we can make sure that if we do read some GeoNet posts, some blog posts and stuff like that, so when those things go out, we stay up on those things to make sure that's as well. We also have key people within Esri that have domain knowledge that are throughout the globe that are giving us feedback and trying to drive what we're building to make sure we're building the right thing. Yes, sir.
Who handles the quality control when something is uploaded?
So our team.
What makes a change uploaded to GitHub?
Right, so the one thing that we did not show there is when Patrick finished his feature enhancement, that would have been a callback to my issue, the verification. And that verification would then kick off our quality control. We would go test that, and we would have parameters. We have checklist tests, we have automated unit tests that our developers write into the stuff. We're building those as we go, trying to get better at that to make sure that those are available. So any unit tests we write in the code itself, those are also going to be available in that repository as well. The one thing that we don't put in that repository is our initial checklist test or the holistic testing where we're just doing exploratory testing. But that's done with the product engineers on the team. Currently, I believe there's 13 people on the team, and I would say 80, 90% are product engineers.
Yeah.
With 2 or 3 developers. Good question. Okay, well, I'll let you guys go. The one thing before we go, I want to just show you who's using any of the other solutions that Defense Solutions has made. Have you guys heard of us? Have you seen the stuff that we make? Because we're much bigger than just military tools. So I just want to show you where to find those and kind of some of the stuff that we have created in the past. So if you go to solutions.arcgis.com, we essentially have all the different industries available. So if you go to defense, we break down our components in 3 different categories, which is intelligence, operations, sustainment. If you come in here, you can launch into these and get access to these. If you want to see a full list of what we create, this documentation link will take you to each individual thing that we create. It's a full list of that. There we go. So this is the full list of everything that we do. We do stuff in GeoEvent, we do stuff for locators, we do the greater reference graphic widget, that's all here. You also can look at this in a different way, which is at the top of our page, which is the gallery view. And the gallery view also allows you to see the other different industries, because a lot of the stuff that the other industries do does apply to defense or military, but if you want to look at just what we create, you can come here and look at this. Now what we do is that each individual thing that we do release, we also do full documentation on it. So if you click on that, you get to learn more. We give you a basic overview. We show you what requirements are needed, what you get, and then we go into the documentation for the different components of that. So everything from getting started to actually using the component. Some of the things that we've done for military tools, it's a bit different, is that we understand there's delivery mechanisms that have to support the industry in whole a little bit differently. So some people can just come out here and just download this application right out of the box. So this will take you to a download link. It will give you a zip file. They'll have everything that you need in there. Other individuals need to have access to the actual media itself because it has to go through some type of security protocol to get scanned before it gets put in your organization. So this will allow you to just enter in your information. So if you're anywhere within the continental United States or Hawaii or an APO address, we can send that content to you free. So we'll send you a media disk, and it'll have the exact same stuff that's on the disk itself. So this is taking a second to load. And then, of course, we just link to our GitHub repositories as well. So here, if you want to look at this GitHub, you can see that. And then this is that very first link that's on the slide that shows the topic military tools. And this has all of those different repositories for each individual component that we build. So if I was interested in, let's say, coordinate conversion dot and add in, I can come in here and then get access to all that content as well. This should have loaded by now. Yep. So here's this. Essentially, it's just a basic form where you can just fill out and go ahead and submit, and no big deal there. So the idea is that we're trying to support you in different ways. If you have an administrator that says that I have to have this in the My Esri domains where I can go in as the administrator of all the licenses and download it from My Esri, we also put it up there as well. Just like anything else, you have to put a purchase order request in. That's put in, and then it's made available. There's no money tied to that, but they just have to do that to track it. So one of the things we covered here is we wanted to allow you to understand what military tools was, just a very quick, simple overview of some of the tools. Want to show you how we worked. Want to show you what else is available to us and make sure we get feedback. You guys gave some great feedback. I know a lot of people don't sometimes speak up during the open audience, so if you have questions afterwards, please come up to Patrick and myself and we can answer those and make sure that we can address any challenges or problems you have. I want to thank you guys for coming.
And one last thing, we have this Defense Solutions has a booth out on the floor. So if you haven't been there yet, stop on by and we can give you a demo.
Also, please take the survey. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know that we're giving you the right content.